Okay then, Marcus, just been having a look through your swings for you here. You mentioned that your miss at the minute, or your bad shot, would be tending to hit the ball a little bit thin, and also losing the odd shot out to the right a little bit. So as I said, I've had a look at through your swings, and I'm just going to analyse this for you, show you exactly what's going on in your swing that's causing you to hit those shots, and what you're going to need to do moving forwards to straighten out the ball flight, as you said you'd like to do, and improve the quality of that strike a little bit as well, take away those slightly thin shots. So from down the line on the right hand side here, we can see the first thing to look at is your setup, and we can see that you're stood quite close to the golf ball. So you can see your hands there are almost touching your legs at setup. Now if we look at Patrick Reed here on the left, we can see that he's created space there between his hands and his legs, and his arms are hanging down, and he's got room to swing the club back and through from that position there. So for you on the right hand side here, what this means, as I say, because you're stood very close to the golf ball, you then have to move your body out of the way to take the club back. And you actually take the club back on a really nice line, but it's very close into the body, and as I say, you're having to move that body out of the way to take the club back. As a result of this means that you're loading into your right side very, very early on in your backswing. I'm just going to put a line on your head here before we take this any further back. There we go. So as I mentioned, because you're stood close to it, you're having to get your body out of the way, load your right side quite early on. So at this point you've loaded your right side quite a bit, and as a reaction from that, you're then, once we get to the top, you see you get the club in a really, really good position at the top. You get a really good rotation of your upper body, big trunk, big rib cage rotation, which is great. You create lots of width, but as I say, as a result of that, you loading that right side early, once we get to the top, we can see that most of your pressure, or the majority of your pressure, is here down through your left heel. What we want ideally is more of a gradual build-up of pressure through your right heel, and once you get to the top of the backswing, you have more pressure down through your right heel. As I mentioned there, you've got most of your pressure down through your left heel. We can see your left hip here is quite high, so your right hip, your trail hip, is quite high, and your left hip, your lead hip, is quite low. So the hips have essentially tilted a little bit more than they've rotated, and as a result of this, we can see where your head was at setup on that line. You can see how your head has dipped down, and you've lost a little bit of height there in your backswing. So now from this position here where you are, with that hip tilt lowered down into your left side, and this loss of height, it's very hard for you from here to make an efficient transition. I actually think you do a really good job from where you are in the transition, but like I say, it's very, very difficult for you to make that efficient and to not get steep from this position, and this is ultimately what happens. So we take these lines away here. Now in the downswing, the path of your hands is on a very good path, but it's just the club is getting a little bit too steep. Like I say, I think you do a good job considering where you were at the top, but it is a little steep. Also combined with you being very close to the golf ball, in order for you from this position here to bring the club into the back of the ball, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to shallow out the club somehow, and you're doing that by, we can see here, bringing your body up into the ball and rising up out of your posture. As I say, that's a move you're having to do to get the club onto the back of the ball from where you are in the downswing, and where your ball position is being very close to you. So you can see you're rising up through impact. There's not a lot of rotation because you're having to make that manipulation, and it's that shallowing out with the body, that manipulation that you're having to make, that causes you to hit those thin shots. It also gets your path a little bit out to in, so swinging to the left. It's also hard for you to control the face from there, so the face will stay a little bit open, and that's where you lose those shots to the right as well. So what we need to do to change this, if we sort of dig down and find the very root cause, that would be your setup and how close you are to the golf ball. You can see as well you've got just a little bit of an excessive curve in your lower back there, so if we can straighten that out a little bit, activate your core a little bit more at setup, that will help to let those arms hang down a little bit more naturally and create some space at setup. Ultimately, as I say, it's that setup that that is the root cause, because everything that happens in your swing here, Marcus, is a chain reaction from where you are at setup. So what we need to do for a long-term change is get to that root cause, which is your setup. We need to change that, and then everything else can change from there. So what we need to do is get you a little bit more where Patrick Reed is here, so your arms are hanging down a little bit more and you've got space to swing the club back. From here then, you won't have to get your body out of the way, so you'll be able to gradually load into your right side, where when we get to the top you can have more pressure down through your right heel as opposed to your left heel where it is at the minute. The hips can rotate a little bit more and not quite tilt as much, and you'll be able to maintain your height from there as well. And then from that position you can make a much more efficient transition where you can get the club shallower, and then you're going to be able to rotate more through impact. So if you look here again, I'm not saying you need to get to the levels of Patrick Reed because that's probably not realistic right now, but we can see he's opened up his body through impact, whereas for you, you're having to shallow it out so you can't really get that rotation. Now you did mention you feel like your distance is quite good at the minute, and I can see why that would be. You can still create a bit of club head speed from this top position because you've had a very good coil with your upper body and you've created lots and lots of width. But with this added rotation we can certainly get even more distance out of that. What that'll help to do as well is that'll bring the club in on more of a neutral path and allow you to make it easier for you to square the face, so you're not going to have to manipulate as much. That'll straighten out those shots. It's also going to help to steepen your angle of attack into the ball, so you'll be able to improve the quality of the strike there as well. Okay? So hopefully that makes sense there, Marcus. Like I say, the first thing that needs to change in order for all that to happen is the setup. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a video, I'll post a video on Edify for you, and I'll just coach you through those initial changes with your setup and then your takeaway. Alright, thanks Marcus.